Welcome in, everyone. This is the first episode of Dufuzed, where we do a little podcast and talk about a topic and try to make it entertaining for you guys. In this first episode, we're going to cover the topic of us. We're going to tell our story and kind of how we got started in this whole streaming thing, and hopefully get into kind of the back side of being a small streamer and setting up your channel and going through the process. I think the best way to get this first episode kicked off is with a roundtable of elevator speeches. So do you want to give a quick elevator speech there, Court? What your channel's about?
I hate elevator speeches. So when you join a company and they're like, okay, we're going to do an icebreaker. I'm always terrible at it. I always can't think of that one. They always want a fact about you. I'm like, I have no fact. Everyone knows them.
It's just the, hey, I got a new follower or a raid. You've done it 100 times. I've heard it.
Well, for anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Court, or Cortenyde. You can call me Court, or anything else, as long as it's TOS safe. No, I play generally anything I want to. I got really into survival, and now I'm into 2D platformers. I'm so fickle. I've been streaming for 2 years. Just around the pandemic, boredom but love of gaming brought me to it, and not having any acting roles because everything was shut down. And I've been doing it ever since, and I built a beautiful community.
Nice. Yes. Lovely communities all around. All right. Barbaric, it's your elevator speech.
Hi, I'm Something Barbaric. Or Barbaric. Or Barb. Or Barbie Girl. Whatever. Pretty much chaotic neutral. Been doing stream things for 4 months. I tried to do them starting about a year ago, but I had a potato for a PC and the worst internet imaginable. And then fixed all that and started doing it again 4 months ago. And it's been a good time. Not great at it, but it's fun.
Hey, as long as you're having fun, that's what's important. Chili dogs, hit me.
Yo, sucking on chili dogs. I started like last year, and really the only reason I'm doing it is so that I can write off my internet, my Amazon Prime, and my video games. Because if big corporations can get away with writing off yachts, I should be able to write off my video games. And that's what Twitch does for me. So
I would like to add his response as an addendum to mine. Yes, that too.
Also that. All right.
I don't know how taxes work.
Right. I mean, it's a lot different for you than us from what I've heard, but all right.
Our tax system is the most broken thing in the world.
Stay on subject.
No, I refuse.
We're not going down
Swirling here.
No, we're not going down that rabbit hole.
Conversation about
what if my channel intro is squirreling, Skag? You can't censor me.
None of us are that organized. We'll get into that later too. All right, my turn. I am SkaggBragi, a variety streamer here. Play a lot of survival, play a lot of cooperative with the rest of the diffusers here lately, and I just like to have fun and love to have random conversations with chat as they come up. And those are elevator speeches.
I also have an addition. I also have an addition for anyone who's listening or watching later on, for the fact we are all ex-military. I'm ex-British Army infantry, and the three Americans that you hear are all ex-US Army bomb techs.
Yes. And for any bomb tech that may listen, that is explosive ordnance disposal technician, because there's a difference between bomb squads and EOD. Some people care, some people don't.
I forgot what the correct terminology was, and I feel like I've now just riled up the apple cart.
For the British, you guys are called ATOs.
Yeah.
Are we? I always call them EOD, because I think it's called EOD still, but I didn't know. Are they called ATOs?
No, like ammo technician officers or something like that. But for the most part, you don't have a bomb squad. your military runs everything except for London. London has their own little bomb squad.
Yeah,
Of course they do. I mean,
Right.
look, there's nowhere in the UK that you'll see like a firearms thing. Like, hey, if this happens, you know, like a poster where it's like a warning. We were at a gaming convention, 2 weeks ago. I look on the wall on the outside of this building and it's like, hey, if there's a firearms incident, these are the things that you should do. And I've never seen that in the UK except for London recently.
right.
So there's
And
many
that's
things that we
squirrel
don't have.
too. We need a squirrel tracker.
I can write you up that command for your streamer bot real quick.
Yeah. All right. And then, I mean, the next logical step is how we kind of got started in it. You know, we're going to walk through our stories and try to do it in chronological and add as much like streamer details as possible. And I guess I'll start off with the story of how I got into streaming, you know, since I guess I'm the host. But in the beginning, it was a cold February day. I was born in Wisconsin. No, that's probably too far back.
Yeah, we've just had Easter.
Right. No. But when I got out of the military, I did the police academy because I thought like I wanted more of that in my life, you know, dedication, service, serve, whatever. And I finished the academy. I was applying for jobs in my area, and I just did not like how a lot of the administrative side of police departments kind of handled the hiring process and everything like that. While I was looking for a job, I was playing a lot of games, kind of bored, and I wanted to do something while I waited. So I just decided to like download Twitch on my Xbox one day and give it a go. Out of the blue, I had never been on the platform. I've never seen a channel or a show or talked to anyone on Twitch before. I just started streaming with Breath Edge and the Grand Theft Auto remasters. And from there, I started meeting communities, and it kind of blossomed, but I had no idea what I was getting into. And it just started this whole journey. It's been great. Love it, but it was very much random, out of the blue. Didn't even consider it until one day I just did it. So yeah, it was an interesting decision for me to get into the streaming game. What about you, Court? You said you were during the pandemic you got into this.
Kind of. I think a lot of people got into streaming during the pandemic due to boredom and just a general outlet, because I think the one thing that streaming does is it especially on Twitch, it's very community focused, or as community focused as you want it to be. And I really had no expectations or aspirations. I was actually a naysayer when it came to like gaming content. I would like intake gaming content, but like I left the military in 2010, 2011, and then had like this weird kind of journey of not self-discovery, but I did like loads of little odd jobs, and then I ended up quitting a very corporate job where I earned a good amount of money to go into hospitality management for like a boutique cinema, so that I could go and study acting part-time, become an actor, which I did for like 5 years, primarily like stage acting, did some like TV and commercial and
One music video,
work.
right?
Couple of music videos, yeah. But the work kind of, it's an expensive thing to be an actor, because you're always paying for headshots, you're always paying for travel to get to auditions, that you might not get money for. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into it, and depending on the, only 1% or 2% of actors do it full time. It's a really small subsection, right? And so
A lot like Twitch.
A lot like Twitch, but the difference is you can't control it.
Barrier for entry.
Yeah, a huge barrier for entry when it comes to acting. You're left at the whim of somebody saying yes or no, and you go into a room where there's 20 versions of you, and it's honestly, it feels like you're going into a multiverse when you go into an audition sometimes. But I enjoyed it. I loved it. Then I actually had a big 2020 in terms of acting. Like, it was going to be a big year for me. And then the pandemic happened. And I've always gamed. I've always loved gaming. Llama and I gamed together quite a bit. And then during the pandemic, we were playing a lot of Call of Duty Warzone because that was the hot thing at the time. And we just had our PlayStation 4s. We had one each from, before we moved in together. And so I had this tiny TV and she had the big TV, and we play Warzone next to each other. Yeah, of course.
Plus, the big TV is easier to screen snipe, but
oh yeah, totally. But we were always in a team. I think. But yeah, we played that with friends a lot, and she has been watching streamers for quite a long time. Whereas for me, when I was like a YouTuber, especially when like YouTube gaming came out, I'd see them at these conventions, and I'm like, who is that? I don't know who that is. Or gaming content. That's hard to make. And you get into Twitch and you realize it's a different thing entirely. Right. So newfound respect, I guess, from way back then. But she's watching like a few streamers. One of the streamers was a guy called Sips from the Yogscast, which is funny now because I'm a Yogscast Games ambassador. Not met
Look
Sips,
at you now. I've made it.
It comes full circle. And Llama's kind of worked for them as well. But we were watching a lot of Sips, and I was like, that looks like good fun. And there was a lot of games and that I wanted to play that you just couldn't play on a console because you kind of play through your collection in a pandemic, in lockdown, where you've got nothing to do. And we both have MacBooks, and we were like, okay, we could either buy another MacBook each. Again, we had the MacBooks individually before we moved in together. So we said, hey, why don't we invest into a gaming PC? Let's see how much it would cost. Instead of us buying a MacBook each, we both want to play games, that we can't get on Mac. So let's get a PC. And then it was that thing of like, well, if we get a PC, I could also try maybe streaming. I could give that a go. No, again, no preconceptions about like what I wanted to do. But I knew the more I watched it, the more I kind of got into it. A guy that I did, that was one of the last shows that I did, one of them, he was a producer on one, then he was a director on another, because I got like recast for the follow-up show. He'd started streaming. So I just jumped into his community. And then from there, I found other people. And when I got the PC, I was like, hey, can you give me some advice I'm looking to set up? And I knew that I wanted it to have a certain feel or production value or whatever. And I had some of the equipment previously, like microphones and a mic stand and some lights, because you have to do like self tapes. And I was doing a podcast before all of this when I was doing acting. And so I gave it a go, and then I started to really enjoy it. I set myself up a schedule. And I've just been continuous since then. It was kind of like it became kind of like a tri-weekly dopamine hit,
Yeah.
It was, and then, you start to grow a community, and you start to see people come in and stick around and then maybe leave,
learn names.
That's the nature that, that's the nature of the game. It's like in life, you'll have a best friend for like 10 years and they'll move off to a different side of the country, and then you just don't speak to them, and it's the same with this. But that's kind of the beauty of it. You're always meeting new people. I'm involved in a lot of different communities. And I've met some of my closest friends through the platform, and that all came from the decision of, hey, do we get another? Wait, we want to play these games that we can't get on a PS4. Plus, we need a new personal computer. Do we get a MacBook, or do we just go chip in together and get a new PC? That's where the decision really derived from. And so that is kind of how I ended up in it. It's kind of my career as an actor kind of got pushed into the background, out of my control. And then I found something that I love doing, which I can control myself. You know, I control what time I go on,
Right.
and what I play and how I do it. You know, and it gives me a lot of joy, and it's given me an awesome community.
I think I had a lot of that, like, I had a lot of that, like, control your schedule time thing as well, because I am a father of several kids, and, you know, having something that I can do where I build my schedule around their schedule, and when my girlfriend's busy, either sleeping or working, like, it's a lot of freedom to have the ability to control that schedule and still not miss important things in your life. Because in the military, I think I missed a lot of, like, big life things because I couldn't control schedule. So that's always a draw as well, that control over things.
Having some form of, like, autonomy over what you do, you know, like being your own boss in that sense can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse because it's only you. So if you can't fall back on anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling right, you take a month off. That's detrimental. You know, that could be to a degree, but it depends on how you view it, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's my story.
All right. Here comes the shortest one. We're not going to squirrel this time, but chili dogs, aside from tax evasion.
Not whoa, fucking mean.
We'll start calling him Enron.
What's your
If I
story?
could do it on that scale, I tell you, I would not be here.
How did you? How did you decide to click go live?
Oh man, just watching you be bad at video games, I was like, they need to see something good.
That's fair.
No, my buddy Jazzy, he always does D&D every Saturday on somebody else's channel, and that's kind of how I got to see Twitch. And then Barbaric just kind of showed me around. I like the communities, and I like what people do, and if I can get up and, you know, do 3 hours of showing somebody a video game, even if there's no one there, I'm just talking to myself, I don't care. But I mean, all my bills are paid. Like, I don't need Twitch money. If I want to go work, I can go work. I mean, I can drywall, I can weld, I can do anything. But being able to do it when I want to, like when my aunt asks or when my friends ask me to come out, I'd be like, yeah, I can do that. It's kind of nice. It's a little freedom from having to wake up, you know, every day, or, you know, you're in Afghanistan, you don't even get a weekend off because people just want to be dickheads. So it's kind of just nice for me. And I'm actually incredibly good at some video games. So
yeah,
I got a little niche there.
I think, you do have, like, the games you do play, you do have, like, a pretty good basis in knowledge. So, like, you're one of those informative streamers, which is nice. But, like,
they're also not hard games. They're not like Barbaric and his Stationeers where like Doug is trying to code a robot to chase people or something like that.
Right.
In game. So, I mean, but very simple game. Stabby stab, eat your food, go to sleep.
Yeah. I also get to enjoy the benefit of, because of my military career and everything, like, I'm not dependent on any necessary source of income. So having that freedom is huge, and it's hard to come by, but if you have it, it opens up opportunities for, like, hobby passion things like this.
I mean, I live paycheck to paycheck, so money, please.
I'm also just waiting for the workforce to really collapse, and that's when they're going to start paying me buku bucks to go weld 4 inches of something.
Right. All right. Last but far from least, Barbaric. Why did we hit go live?
Well, as a way to write off my very expensive
without
PC
getting
that
into
I wanted to build.
I didn't know I had to say that twice, but
no, pretty much the same reason as Chili Dogs. I figured I discovered Twitch like a year and a half ago. I didn't use it at all. I just kind of hung out on YouTube and listened to music and did my thing.
Yeah.
And then I started watching Twitch a lot more, mostly right around when I found you. I followed you.
Yeah.
Because you were like, oh yeah, I'm a NeoD Tech. And I was like, well, fuck, gotta follow NeoD Tech. Now I'm
When a
stuck
friend
with,
asks for help, you know.
No, I followed you and watched you for 14 or 15 months now. And
Yeah.
about 9-10 months ago, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try this. And then I realized my computer is a potato. And I needed to build an entire new one to run
Always
types
a
of
problem.
games I wanted to.
More computer. I always want more. But yeah,
That's the curse of the gamer.
right.
Wanting more. Well, just wanting more computer.
Well, I needed it to run DCS. And I was like, well, I'm building a computer that is capable of running DCS. It's now good enough I can stream on it. I might as well do that. And then
Give that the good old college try.
Of, lovely people from both of your communities actually have come by to help me out and support me while I learn how to do this thing. So
yeah, and that's kind of the next topic is like the interwebbedness of us in our communities. That's not a word. I'm gonna go with it though.
I was going to say intermingling, but I feel like that's the wrong word as well.
Yeah. Like, I think I learned fairly early on that like Twitch is like a web of a bunch of small communities that form larger ones and spiral out. And it's really cool to like watch and be a part of building something like that, because like when Barbaric and Chilidawgs decided they were both going to stream, we're EOD techs, and like I want to help them out, they're always hanging out with me. We decided to do the Discord diffusers, and you know that kind of helped them get the early start. But I mean, they have their own communities separate from that one. But then like also, you know, you're in my community, we've just clicked and played games so much together that we click well, that our communities have an overlap quite a bit as well. And it's fun to watch that kind of like building and intermingling.
I think you can't force it either.
No.
Like teams, right? That you on Twitch you have something called teams. I'm on the Yogscast Ambassador stream team. It doesn't really like teams generally. I think at one point teams were kind of like the Twitch's answer to esport teams, you know, and in, you know, kind of not MCNs, like multi-channel networks, not the way that they'd operate, but you kind of like lean on each other. And there's, you know, some teams, some partners, when partners shit meant more, you would have benefits, right? In kind.
Right.
So, but now I feel like some people create teams just to have a team, and they just want to pack as many people in they can. Some are company led, you know, or like in my case, I guess, publisher led, you know. So you're part of that thing, but you also get these that are just massive. I don't know how to put it, but like I would say communities, but I don't think. I would content farms maybe. So I was part of this team. I'm not going to name the team that I was a part of, but I've been a part of them, or I was a part of them for maybe a year and a bit, until I decided no, there's no point in me being a part of that group anymore. And essentially, they were a team that if you were streaming or a streamer, and you know you passed the Discord test, which was in rules or whatever, then they would whitelist you. But there was about 2,000 to 3,000 people, maybe even more, in fact, in this team.
That's huge. There's honestly no point in being a part of the team, but it meant that you could have a team on the bottom of your, you know, you could feel like you're a part of that group. And that's a really good way to grow a community is by being part of an existing community, and then you kind of branch out for sure. But with that experience, it was one thing they offered was, or they did, was every day they'd have different like time slots where they would do unofficial raids to somebody's channel.
So
Right.
it wouldn't be an actual raid where like a streamer would end their stream and then raid out. It would be, okay, we're going to go and see this list of people today. And they would come in. If they liked you, they would follow you. And then, and then they'd go to somebody else's channel. So they spend like 10 minutes in your channel.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is I don't think I made, in all that time and the raids that I had from them, where I got those follows, I can't name you a single person
Who's stuck around.
come in and stuck around. Now, if somebody in my community is from one of those raids and has stuck around, one, I appreciate you, but two, let yourself be known, because I just don't. I don't think that there was any. I don't think there was any genuine thought. It's a way of helping people for sure, but it feels like a numbers game. Whereas, I'm in a group called the Nightbreed. There is, it's an open community, open to anyone. There's a lot of metalheads, a lot of like anime fans. There's a lot of kind of it's more alternative people generally.
Right.
But we have just such a mix of people in there, and I got into that community. How the hell did I think? Oh, so one of the first people that I met kind of naturally through Twitch, Arcane Ryan, he was a part of the group, and then through him, I followed a couple of people who I liked the content of. They were a part of that group, so I checked out that group, and I don't remember exactly how it came about, but I started playing games with one or two of them off of stream.
Yeah.
And then ended up just becoming a part of this group. And I've got so many friends now all over the world, so many connections that I've made, like genuine connections,
Right.
who I'll speak to them, off stream. If they've got an issue, I'll help them out with it. Even Soulstrike himself, I was going through a bad time last year. He was there for me. I met up with him in person. He was there for me. He's a real friend. He's my closest friends. And, that would have never happened. I wouldn't have had that connection. I wouldn't have had that that genuine human moment and genuine human connection had it not been for these communities that we find online from essentially strangers on the internet.
Yeah.
We just put ourselves out there on a certain schedule every week. I
think it helps being you're not as vulnerable when you're behind a computer screen and nobody can see you, so you're able to be more honest if you want to. And then you have people who are idiots about it who think that makes them brave. But I think it's better when you're able to talk about, sometimes people come in and they're like, I lost a family member and I just want a place to escape. You're welcome in. And that's the kind of vulnerability I'd rather see than people being mean and stuff.
Right. Using it as a shield.
In some ways, I think Twitch does help, especially with the pandemic. Like you were saying, people were forced indoors. Twitch brought a way to be social and hang out and not have to leave your house.
Right. Because obviously there was a huge boom on like all internet fronts when everyone was kind of locked up, but there was a lot of talk about finding that connection and having that sociability still, and Twitch was probably one of the best platforms for it at the time. Like, granted, YouTube started their live streaming, and there's other services out there, but the live streaming content gives you way more connectivity to other people than just watching a video on YouTube or just watching a TikTok. And it helps build communities and connection. And I also got involved with Nightbreed mostly because Court kept lording it over me and showing me how awesome
it's the cool club, as you kept calling it.
He's got this cool guy club that I'm not part of, but he's going to talk about it nonstop. But there's a backside to that, the stream teams as well, where the best, what is it, the road to, I can't even think of the saying right now, but essentially I think
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, there we go. But stream teams is a good idea to help each other out, help build the larger communities in that web I'm talking about. But there were a lot of those teams that were running basically the follow for follows or feed the top type of scenarios where, you know, the stream team existed to give raids directly to the top creators in that team, and the trickle down wasn't nearly there necessarily.
Pyramid scheme.
Kind of, yeah, really.
Yeah.
Pyramid scheme, but using people's time that they're using to watch Twitch as.
Well, I guess the thing is, you know, like the essence of a stream team for me, and the reason why I would or wouldn't join a stream team from my current perspective is how in this, out of context, this may sound wrong. How does this benefit me? Right? Because you're putting yourself in a group of people. So I have been part of a stream team where, you know, the idea was, you know, oh, we're all a big community. It helps you get your name out there. We're very community focused. So we'll do raids and stuff. And, you know, if you want to be a part of the community, you can, or you don't have to, as much as you want. But again, it's faceless. And there's just thousands of people just posting all the time, and it becomes overwhelming. And so it's very hard to make that genuine connection. On the flip side of that, when I think about what a stream team can offer me, let's say I was to make a stream team, I was to get a partner, and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to make a stream team. That team would be made up of not people necessarily who have a high follow count or anything like that. It would be who represents like my values as much, you know, and that I would vouch for. That's the thing. It's like you're vouching for someone, right?
Right. And that's,
now there are stream teams that will give you other more tangible benefits like games or sponsorships, and that works on a grander scale of things. But that for me is like, when I say like, how do I benefit? My benefit would come from being in a group of people who I would be proud to like say, right, this guy is the shit. This person is the shit. You know, I'm happy to say that they're part of my team. And then anything that would, I really do believe in like championing others. Like, you know, I've built overlays for a lot of people within my communities. If I think that they're going to utilize it, because it takes time and effort, right? And I never ask for payment. I've never once asked for payment for an overlay that I make for somebody.
Right.
I do it based on like their passion.
Yeah, you did
their creativity.
You did some work for me that I love. My Be Right Back and like Starting Soons. They were great. But like,
I still need to invoice you actually.
Oh yeah. Shit. Damn it. But yeah, that's like
hit it with the checks in the mail, Skag.
Yeah, the checks in the mail. It's international. It could take a while. Yeah. But if you do it for free, it's a write-off.
Exactly.
No,
there we go, yeah.
But like the Dufuzed thing, it kind of hits on that. Like, none of us are big enough to have a stream team of our own. There's requirements to hit that level. But the diffusers we have a common thread. We connected over being in the military, specifically the 3 EOD techs. Court falls in with us on most things, but like, we work well together. We play off of each other well. We enjoy each other's company. Our content is not the same, but has similar threads and similar communities. So like, that's what a stream team should be.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that aren't, because they want the numbers, the size, or that's not the focus. And I think if it was the focus, stream teams would be a lot more efficient, and more people would want to join the team that fits their style or personality, right?
I think so. I think the idea of teams now, I think it's going the way of hosts. Host was a great idea, but it really didn't make a lot of sense. You know, I think that it was the idea of, okay, let's do like a watch party, or let me present this person.
Right.
And it kind of made sense that way, but I don't know anyone who utilized in that sense. Raids are a lot more effective because you're actively vouching for somebody and sending people over there. And if you decide to stay, then that works. Could there be another system in place? Maybe. But with stream teams, I think the idea is good. I think the implementation is poor based on that.
Right. And so does that fall on the community and how we utilize it? Because like I said, if people approached it the way I described, then it would be a much more effective tool, but that's not how the community at large uses it. So I don't know. There's not controls on either side. Like Twitch doesn't control how you use it. So
I think that with Teams, and where it stands now, is Teams is a nicety that you can utilize and you can use it whichever way, which way you want it. So you can be that big conglomerate of follow for follow. You can be the hey, let's support each other. You can be a company or an esports team or a collective of streamers who are, promoting it either nefariously or not. I think from Twitch's point of view, and I think quite rightfully so, I think that they're looking at features. I think just to touch on what you said about YouTube, I think YouTube and Ludwig going over to YouTube has changed the platform a lot more. I think the difference being is Twitch is very community focused, and the way that YouTube is a bit clunky still. But I think they're getting there. I think one positive of that fact is Twitch pushed back a lot of development for so many years. We're chasing their tail, especially in the pandemic. They're all working from home. They're all,
it was really stagnant for a while.
For a long time. And I think one benefit of it is they are no longer the top dogs. They are a dog. No one's particularly the top dog. I would say if you like community, stick with Twitch. If you like implementations and features to a degree, go to YouTube. There's a lot of things that YouTube has that Twitch doesn't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And traversing that change, if you're going to, is quite difficult. But I will say that since that has happened, there has been a market difference in Twitch's attitude towards features. Guest star's a little bit broken, but they implemented that, and that's a really nice feature to have.
It could be user error if we're going to be honest, but
so there is always that. Moderation, they've really put a lot of work into that. On the back end of the creator dashboards and community features, they've added a lot of new features onto that. So they are doing things for the betterment of the community in streaming, not so much for the creator in terms of the beneficiary side of it. That's a whole other conversation. But I think that when it comes down to it, the one thing that Twitch is very good at is fostering those communities. That is just, there is reasons for that. I'll let you say your piece. And
I was just going to say, I think creator wise in general, it's a good time right now because of that battle, and those two are going to duke it out. If anyone else seriously gets in the mix, they can throw their hat in there. But as companies duke it out, they have to fight for the best path forward for not specifically the company, but to create an environment that the people are in the platforms want to stay. So that push forward benefits, I think, everyone really.
Well, competition drives innovation, right?
Yeah. And
I think that YouTube dropping the YouTube gaming thing, for example, discoverability on YouTube generally much better. But if you were to go on live channels on YouTube, categories, I was talking to my buddy Comic about this the other day, about trying to find certain categories for just games, for example. It's not as straightforward as Twitch or intuitive as Twitch. Setting up your stream. You know, I can go live within a matter of a minute if my fingers go quick enough to type in a stream title and change the tags. You know, and set up the OBS thing. I've got a lot of things that I have to do on the back end to actually get it to be where I want it to
do
be.
Stuff.
Point being, like, you know, just for example, this camera here, just zooming it in a little bit and turning off auto exposure, you know, it's little things like that. But what I'm saying is you can go live straight away. Whereas with YouTube is a little bit more clunky. I will say, just kind of go piggyback off my last comment, was, again, Ludwig said something which is very true, which is Twitch have been very good at gamifying the interactive viewer experience, or the sort of semi-interactive viewer experience, right? So television is as a passive medium, same with film. This is an interactive medium, or passive interactive medium, being that you are watching us and you are taking in the content as you normally would, but you can affect things live on stream, whether that's audible or visual or you know, redeeming something,
redeems, or even just chatting.
Yeah. But I think that when it comes down to Twitch itself, one thing that they've been very good at, and this is a quote directly from Ludwig, is gamifying the platform. So, you know, like, for example, you have your chat much like you do on YouTube, but you have, you know, emotes, animated emotes, redeems. There are so many systems to have integration of audio and all of the things that the OBS allows, I guess, but directly also through Twitch. Bits, for example, you know, it's a bit like a video game in that respect, because you never pay with actual money. You pay with a pseudo coin,
right? A faux currency. Yeah. You know, the subscribe feature. Like, honestly, if they were to take the Twitch Prime away, I think that would be a crying shame. That's not necessarily a conversation for now, but you know, even things like that, where I think all of that kind of thing, all of those things are able to get the people who are intaking that medium or that content. You're able to get involved, you know, and able to be noticed. The announcement features, for example, or you know, the highlight my text, for example, your follow channels, recommended channels, who's live right now. Like, it's very intuitive. You mentioned something that I want to like hit on though, and that's like you mentioned the emotes and redeems, and these are things that you have to find a way to set up for your channel, and that's a big step in, you know, moving forward, because once you hit that affiliate mark, all of a sudden this whole new world opens up, and you have to put a lot of effort in it. There's a lot of effort in streaming in general that I don't think people like realize before they get into it, unless you've been around the platform for quite a while. But like, once you get that affiliate mark, all of a sudden I have to come up with emotes. I have to, you know, as I unlock the emotes, and then I have to, like, what do I want for redeems? How do I want my community to interact with me? Mm-hmm. And that's a topic that I think I'd love to get into, like, more with everyone, is just how did you guys go about picking what fit your community and channel as you wanted to add this stuff?
Talking about emotes and redeems?
Yeah, like,
I mean, most of my emotes just come from like video games that I play and kind of have fed off of since I was a child. And then redeems, I mean, I'm not by any means the most creative of bunch. I mean, if I see a redeem on someone else's channel and it works out well, I think that I could do that. I generally do something similar to it.
Put a little spin on it.
Yeah, if I can. I mean, but most of the time it's just me talking and playing video games. I like that medium in the background.
Right.
I'm the worst streamer ever. Got the tag and everything. Can't take it away from me.
Right. And it's not like It's not like you pick your own tags or anything like that. That's obviously
No, they have to give that to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be like so new that you don't know that,
right.
but you got to earn that tag.
Yeah.
It's an award for
Yes.
non-excellence.
Excellent.
Outstanding in this field.
Everyone gets a trophy.
I mean, it honestly depends on how creative you can be, or like who you have access to. Like Barbaric does, he's way more code-minded than I am, and he helps out a lot. And so have you, and especially Court has helped out. So it's all part of being a part of that community. Like I was on Twitch for a while before I decided to hit go live, and by then I kind of understood a little bit of what was going on.
Right. And I don't think I'm super creative at all. I feel like I struggle in that department a lot. So a lot of mine, I think, just lend into jokes or things that have happened within my community that I want to build upon or give people a way to like carry on. But
yeah, being technically incompetent should be like no barrier to you like wanting to stream if that's what you want to do. If you want to put yourself out there and try it,
right?
There are definitely people out there who are nice enough once you've been a part of their community and you like contributed, not monetarily wise, but like contributed, you know, either in conversation or just a viewership
like
or whatever.
I mean,
a lot of people are willing to help, especially on Twitch, and I like to see that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think that I think as a new streamer coming in, if you've not taken in any content at all and you feel like you want to stream, you may have been part of somebody's community for a short while and you're like, hey, I want to give this a go. I think it's very difficult to set yourself up with a brand. Like I'm massive on branding. That was the first thing, even the name, you know, like the first thing that I did was make the logo that's flashing above me. You know, I have a background in content creation from like YouTube, but there was still a lot of trial and error. My emotes, some of them I've deleted or you know changed and modified, and I think it kind of goes on to what you were saying, Skag, about it's community led. Like, you know, two heads are better than one, and if this is truly a community and interactive platform, then that's where it comes from. I don't think it's a point of not being creative. I think it's a point of sometimes having blind spots because you're, you know, whether it's being technically incompetent or feeling like you're not creative or whatever you think you are or are not, you know, there's always strength in numbers. There's always strength in a team. You know, I do think there can be too many cooks sometimes in creative processes, but I think that, like, you know, if you have an in joke, you know, lean into it. You know, like the reason why, like, I call energy drinks boomer juice is because yes, it was a meme that Monster Ultra was boomer juice, but I'd never heard that before. It's now become like a staple of my channel and my communities,
and it hasn't spread to the rest of us at all.
Not at all. But because Big Lad was like, oh, you drinking boomer juice again. That's a terrible. I'm probably going to get another unfollow from him. I did an impression of him once and he unfollowed me. But you know, because of him, because he said he called it boomer juice, and that just kind of stuck. There's sayings and vocabulary and you know, in jokes and kind of catchphrases that we quote all the time within these communities that do sometimes catch on and spread. You know, PogChamp was never a thing before Twitch.
Yeah.
You know, it has its own culture. It has its own larger community. But even that, I think that I don't necessarily think it's a lack of creativity. I think it's actually the thing that benefits the platform the most is having the community lead it, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to be using those things. Those are the people that are going to be interacting, utilizing those assets. I think the hardest thing is starting out and maybe just hitting affiliate and being like, okay, now what? Because at that point you'll have 50 followers. But let's be honest, attrition is real.
Yeah.
Right? When you get a raid, you're lucky to see 5%, 2% even of that raid actually follow you or stick around. Past the fact. So it is a real thing. So it's at 50 followers, your friends might be following you or watching or giving you a look, but then, like, for example, a lot of the people that I'm friends with stream at the same time as me. Milkman, thank you very much. So it's very, very difficult for them to want to support me. They do, and they do it in their own way, even if it's just emotionally. But what I'm saying is those numbers, you can't be led by those numbers. What you can do is just, again, if you're like, I don't know what I can make whatever, and
I've had
your skills will get better.
Yeah,
naturally.
I mean, there's a ton of learning that you have to do, especially depending on like how deep in the weeds you get. But like, I've had tons of moments where like I'd go to like my mods. Obviously, the mods are the ones that you kind of trust in your community the most. And you're like, I have this idea, but I don't know how to make it real. Or you go to a streamer, Finn, like I've gone to you before, like we were talking about my Be Right Back and like starting a screen. I was like, I have this idea, but I have no idea how to make it real, but it fits my brand, my channel, my style. And like people come in and they help with that. And I like Crimson Penguin added something in chat that I like. Crimson Penguins was, I feel a lot of it is trial and error, finding what works for your community and what game you are playing at the time. So like that's all true too, because some things that you want to do, like I have a redeem that I need to get rid of, but it's name a building or scientist. It's from T-Rex Tuesdays. It's old. That works for that game and it helped the community in that game. But it's kind of like a lingering dead redeem now. So like game can change it and your community, like my crabs everywhere, like communities help build these things. Games have specific things that make it better. And all of that is something that is that constant trial and error. If things fall flat, you can't be afraid to like cut the dead weight and move on or revamp it.
I think, if you're not feeling it, if you feel like one day that it's not something that mirrors your intentions or your aspirations or ambitions or whatever, then I think there needs to be a thought of just, well, I can just stop. That's where the control comes in. If I do that, I generally like to replace it with something else, because for me, I've had redeems in the past. I used to have a thing that every time I got a new follower, I would change my voice on voice mod for, I think it was like 5 minutes, to just a random thing. And after a while, I was like, nope, I'm getting rid of that. I'm changing that. I think people like to see that if they do something, it has an effect.
Absolutely.
And everything that I make everything that I can myself. Again, I have been an editor for a long time, or have edited for a long time. I can use Photoshop to a degree. I know what I like, and I know what I like to look at. So I think there's an element also of just kind of beg, borrow, and steal. This is a platform to do it to a degree. As long as you're not ripping somebody off, it's a thing of taking inspiration and then making it your own. Right?
Because there's 100 ways to spin things, but like there's only so many like original ideas. And like with the larger community of Twitch, like you were talking about, some things people just like, and it's through the larger community as a whole, but putting that spin on it, making your own, it makes a big difference.
I've got friends who won't use the same if it's like, and I'm very similar to this. If there's something that's in the zeitgeist and is very popular, they won't use it.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally get that, because I don't like using pre-made assets, mainly because I have an understanding of how to make overlays. So, and I want mine to, if when somebody comes in or somebody just glances at the stream and they might have seen it, they're like, oh, that's Cortenyde stream. You know, I like things to look clean. Like, for example, I think a prime example of this would be a logo, right? So I have my logo, which is just text. I like RGB, like not RGB, sorry, but like monoscopic 3D, you know, the ones with the blue and red glasses. So like a lot of my stuff is like chromatic aberration. So I implement that into it. I like very minimalist designs, very clean kind of designs. That's what I like. So I implement that to myself. But when it comes to even, you know, just having any redeems, for example, I will think about, you know, how it'll affect the stream, if it's gonna disrupt the stream at all, you know. Right. But if I think there's something funny, I will generate, like the court station, you know, the PlayStation thing. Yeah. You know, but that can only be used once because that is somewhat disruptive.
Yeah, and you can put those limits on, which is nice. And like, I think like you have you want to keep it clean, and like, I think that's a big part of your redeems too, like building that style off your brand. Like for me, I don't like when I push a button, I get the exact same thing every time. So a lot of my redeems are randomized to some degree between 5-6 different actions that have the same theme to it, but they give you a slightly different delivery. Which, for me, it's kind of, I know like one of them's you're fired. Like when I screw up, you're fired. There's several snips where someone in the clip gets fired from pop culture, like Simpsons, whatever. But someone gets fired, but you don't know which you're fired you're going to get. So there's a little bit of like randomization excitement, like you don't know exactly what it's going to be, but you know what it's going to be, you know.
What I was going to say, I kind of tangentialize off myself, sorry, my brain squirrels in its own way, was logos. And there was a trend, not so much anymore, I think people have moved away from it, but for a long time the like the tricolor with the shield, and like it was like either a wolf, a Viking, like they were very esports centric logos that everyone would have.
So that might play into like
GFX logos, yeah.
What was the company Own 3D that got really popular? Like they would do a lot of the like make your own, and it was all those. Like my first one was one of those, and I moved away.
My first overlay was from them. Yeah. But again, even with that, I knew that I wanted to look different. So I paid for my overlay, just the overlay, and I paid for the most expensive. I think it cost me like £35. And I bought the source files for it so that I could have like complete like I could modify it the way I wanted to and lay it out the way I wanted to. So that's what I did to make it like a certain, like have a certain uniqueness to it.
Right.
You know? And again, I think that lends itself to beg, borrowing, and stealing. But really, I think the main thing is to make it as personal or as true to you as you can. Like I said, I look back on my initial streams, and even though like back then I was like, this looks good, there was still something kind of nagging at me. Like I was like, this isn't exactly what I want, you know?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of inspirations where I took certain elements and it changed over time. I think I've remade overlays maybe 3 times since I've been streaming. And like the overlays like this now, this conversation screen has changed 3 times. 3 times. And it's just like, even to do with like the height, even to do with just the layout, you know? Right. How can I change it? How can I make it look good? But I think it's, you know, if you don't have that know-how, things like the community, being part of a community where somebody can help you out, it's not going in with the intention of I'm going to be part of this community for somebody to help me out. It's just, it's making those meaningful connections, and people will generally help you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the overarching theme of it is, having people around you that you do have have something in common with, a through line.
Yeah.
And as long as there are no necessary intentions behind it, because let's be honest, that happens in every realm, in every hobby, in every industry.
Well, yeah.
I think you'll find your people.
Yeah, for sure. And you're going to have someone that comes in and like, they just want to basically shout themselves out. And they'll do it in like sly ways or not straight out or whatever. But I think the communities as a whole, and it's important your whole like make the connection and see where it goes from there. Communities as a whole, they see it. When someone comes in and says like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I got to go live now. Like, you're not going to win anyone over by that. But like, you spend, 10 minutes a day in my channel talking to my community over a month, and then all of a sudden someone finds out that you're a streamer, you're going to get like more gain and more connection that way. And I think early on, that's a hard lesson to learn because you want to promote yourself. You're excited and you want people there, but you have to fight those urges and realize what the real thing is and how to naturally build that.
Well, I mean, even if Comic has just said, when I started, I had no help. I had no one to give any guidance. So when I started to stream, was packed with huge overlays and other stuff. Looked ridiculous. Now I know better. I do try and help friends out if I can. And I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, Comics even helped myself with certain things. I tend to be somewhat autonomous when I make stuff, and that's just because I kind of know what I want, and it's I've been doing it a while, or like making stuff a while, that I kind of like I'm very self-critical anyway. But if I'm ever unsure, I will always get, like I said, like for example, when I made the stuff for Creator Royale, I had multiple people look over that, because not that I didn't trust myself, but I just wanted an eye for it, right. And they came up with, and even post first Creator Royale, I learned a lot, and people came up with a lot of good suggestions about it. And it's just having that, having those people who are kind of going to be on your side, right, and are going to have your back. I do think it's difficult for new streamers, and I'm actually going to give this to SomethingBarbaric. Like, again, I do think it comes down to intention, and I do think it comes down to what you want, because I think especially during like 2020, 2021, there was a lot of people that were coming on thinking that, I'm going to make loads of money as a streamer or whatever, which is just not the case.
The pipe dream.
But I remember being a new streamer and trying to just make kind of even just friendly connections, letting people know, hey, I'm a creator as well, without self-promoting. Like it's a minefield. So I was going to say, like, to Chili and Barbaric, like what are your experiences with that? How have you found that kind of trying to find new audiences or make connections outside of kind of like the established kind of like friend group here?
I mean, you go ahead, Barbaric.
I don't promote myself in other channels unless they ask what I've been doing, and then I'll be like, oh, I did, my 12-hour stream yesterday, just kind of hanging out here today, and then push it back to whatever the streamer is doing.
Okay.
Kind of try and maintain the focus of where I'm at, because I don't like self-promoting in other people's channels, but
keep it organic to the conversation and then move the conversation back to the stream. That's kind of like the authentic, feel-good way to do it. I mean, that's the way you build. Yeah. Chili?
I mean, I'm lucky, and by lucky, I mean my body's broken, but I'm lucky in a sense that I don't have to worry about money. And so, like, I just kind of stream, and I just try to enjoy my game, and people come in passively. People will raid randomly. Like, if you're, like, I've been raided by, like, really dumpy raids sometimes, for like 40 people.
Yeah.
because they're playing a similar game or whatever. Growth takes time, and in my opinion, in my eyes, if you have to have time in front of the screen, and you have to enjoy what you're doing. So if you're like not enjoying the game, like I hated the forest, but Jazzy wanted to finish the forest, so I hated the game, but I enjoyed who I was playing it with. So I think that honestly, if you're more upbeat, and some people go the opposite direction, some people go, I suck at this game, or this game is really hard, I'm going to die a lot over and over and over again, and they get really frustrated. I don't want that in my life. Like I smoke a lot of weed, so I'm a very calm dude now.
I mean, there is that though, like with. So there's only 2 games that have ever like made me like full rage, and that was Elden Ring.
Yeah, you were not having a good time there.
No, Elden Ring, I wasn't in a great place mentally anyway. But again, one of those things where you can like trying to find a niche, trying to, you think, oh, well, might be a good community to be a part of, and then you realize either you suck at the game or you hate it. Not that I hate it, I think it's a great game. I just really suck at it. And most games that I suck at, I'm like, hey, I suck at it, I don't care. With that game, it just got to me, and I think that speaks personal. More about my point in time at that point.
Right.
Tarkov, I just suck at, but I'll still play it from time to time. I have long breaks from it. I think one of the more abrasive things is when you like, okay, Deep Rock, I had, and in fact, what other game did I play recently? Have a Nice Death. I had really positive experiences with people that found me through those games. Yeah, where they were like, "Hey, I have communities. Do you want to know how to find a secret?" I said, generally I say no backseating, but I'm struggling this part. What you got? And I don't mind that, but I know even if I'm going to speak on like some of the, like if I'm going to use Elden Ring as an example, yeah, I had a lot of help from people in chat. But sometimes when you play games, you'll get a lot of unrequited or unwanted even advice, right? Or you'll get somebody who will come in and kind of gloat about their experience on the game, and it feels like that is not an attack on you, but a form of self-promotion. You know what I mean? Like,
and that can vary, I think, in game type wildly, because there are some games where like the community is way more competitive, harsh than others.
Yeah, I think that there's there's some communities which I honestly like that are just so supportive, and you're like, how does a game foster this specifically? And then there are other games where there's like anything, mixture of kind of toxic and non-toxic players, and unfortunately I think that it's with anything, you very rarely go to a restaurant and leave a good review, but if you've had a bad experience, you're more likely to leave a bad review. And in my time in sales, I've noticed that a lot, and it's good to be aware of that.
Right. But, when people had a good time, they can't be bothered with taking the time to say they had a good time. It's just, I enjoyed it. That's the experience. I'll come back. But when it's bad, people want everyone to know.
So I used to sell mattresses for a living, specifically Tempur mattresses. I think in the US you call them Tempur-Pedic. And I used to look after the entire of the south of the UK. And one of the things that kind of catch-all phrases that we had is, how do you describe comfort? And a lot of people can't describe comfort, but they can describe discomfort. So then you go, well, comfort is the absence of discomfort, which I think is it is true, of course, it's an antithesis, but
right.
What that is to say is, when people are having a good time, they don't realize they're having a good time. When people are having a shit time, that's all they can focus on.
Yeah.
And I think it's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So in the same vein, those people who may be positive or just looking or having a good time may not be as vocal as those who are of a more toxic mindset. They're going to be more vocal generally.
Right. Yeah. Gotta love the lurkers. Before we give them all the praise, you mentioned, you had a down spot and you've taken breaks.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start this question with Barbaric because he just came off of his very first 12-hour stream. So, kind of talking about, burnout, mental health, keeping yourself fresh and not putting the pressure on yourself. Barbaric, did you probably don't feel, you went live the next day. Did you feel pressured to do it? Like it was your normal schedule, or?
I felt lightly pressured, but that's just because I said I'd be live, and then I knew I wasn't going to feel great, so I just titled my stream and let everyone know I was going to talk less, but I still enjoyed streaming just kind of quietly. We had less people, but that's fine. I was having fun, and everyone who wanted to hang out was having fun, so.
I mean, but
I would say it wasn't an unpleasant experience. It was a fun time. It wasn't unpleasant at all, actually, so.
Yeah, and I think I've definitely taken some breaks to avoid burnout and whatnot. And I know Court has, and to hit your, you titled your stream my voice isn't feeling the greatest. It's not gonna be what you normally expect. Communicating with your community, either Discord or through stream titles, or just being honest when you're live, I think is a huge part of kind of fighting that fatigue or burnout. When I walked away from Red Dead was a huge one for me, because I felt in such a rut and I was losing that enjoyment, which Chilidawgs pointed out earlier. If you're not enjoying it, the audience will see it. Mm-hmm. So
and they won't enjoy it because it's not fun to watch someone not enjoy something.
Yeah, whilst I love the engagement and content of playing off of Court, I wasn't enjoying the game. And one can only carry you so far, but being aware and knowing to walk away from certain scenarios is, I think, something a lot of streamers getting into it don't do, especially if you're a niche streamer. But I think it's super important.
I think it's so I'm a fickle cat, so I get bored quite easily. I like variety, hence why I do variety. Yeah, it's hard to grow, much harder to grow as variety, and sometimes you'll hit a spot where you'll go, this is working for me, and this is seeing positive, I'm enjoying it. That's always a key factor for me, is am I enjoying it or not? But then if that's then ratified with having good numbers, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. And I think when people get into that spot where they have that initial boost and they're enjoying it and it's new, and there's benefit in kind that you're seeing growth, I think it's really easy to just barrel head into it, which I'm sure we, especially yourself, Skag, we've both been in that spot. And it is that kind of thing, that internal monologue that you have with yourself, where you go, should I continue this because it's doing well for me, and now I'm not sort of enjoying it, and now people are going to be disappointed by it, and am I going to lose this and I know many people who switch categories and seen a decline, especially game specific or niche specific streamers. But also is that what you're saying about being communicative with with your community. Within my first 6 months of streaming, I was really into the numbers. I was really in the weeds with it. I had nothing else on my mind. I wasn't working because of the pandemic, because of lockdown. It was all I had to focus on, and I was passionate about it. I was still in that kind of honeymoon phase. But I was like, I really want to grow. I really want this from it. I really want this from it.
Yes.
And I kind of burnt myself out on that. And I took 4 months off, and I didn't really say much. Even in my Discord, I wasn't active. And the one saving grace was I had a very core part of my community that were asking, where's Court? Is he going to come back? And I'd sometimes be like, yeah, next week I'm coming back. And I then just wouldn't. And it of course that hurt me long term. But, I mean, like now I look back on it, did it really? You know what I mean? You know, I had it took me a little while to kind of get back into the rhythm of things, but I didn't say anything. And then I had a bit of a time in the past year, and I said to my community, I said, I'm taking some time off. And I was still, you know, so like you'll probably see me about other people's streams, but I'm just going to take this little bit of time off. I try not to make too much of a habit of it. Right. I think I've only done it once or twice. That one, you know, especially the two bigger blocks. Like of course, a day here, a day there, or like, you know, like
right,
when I was
you're feeling
West, I had
sick
to take some time
or
off.
life happens. I have to take care of the. Like I do 5 days a week, so like if I have business to do, I have to take a day off because business days.
Yeah, but exactly. So there is times in your life where like life and IRL is priority. I think what I'm kind of trying to, I guess, like illustrate is that, you know, the first time I didn't say anything, and I don't blame anyone for if they unfollowed, if they lost interest, if they didn't come back. The second time, I was communicating with my community as much as possible, and be like, I'm coming back. I just needed this break. And I think that's healthy to have it. But I think recognizing it is the first thing, especially if you're prone, like I am, to bouts of that.
Right. I mean, most veterans are, but.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's more to it. I mean, there's more to it.
Everyone has their own thing going on. Like,
but yeah, for sure. And
it's like I am too is all I was getting at there, but
yeah, I mean, a lot came out of that time, and I needed that time to just kind of get myself back to baseline. But I think communicating was the most important thing. It was what I learned from the first time, and what I learned from the first time is that hey, there are people out there who care about me, who enjoy the content that I make, who are still supporting me 2 or 3, 4 months on of me just dipping. And those were the people that got me back. Got me to come back. Not that I didn't want to.
And I think a lot of people have to go through that focus shift where it's not the numbers and you wake up and realize about the community building. Oh man.
Yes.
When you first start, I think everyone goes through it. The numbers, talking about numbers, goals, and like what you want to do. And I think when people first start out, it's about the numbers and the analytics, because you don't know what to expect to build goals when you first start out. And I was obsessed with the numbers, and I still pay attention to the numbers, but they don't drive everything. And when you talk about goals, people set a lot of number-based goals, but you can't really control that, and it can get into your head very quickly. So you have to like almost go through that moment of realization you were talking about, where those people in the community brought you back, and then your goals can kind of change, and the way you view your community or try to build that can change. Because
I don't think that necessarily being numbers, like having goals based on numbers, is a bad thing necessarily, right? So like a goal of mine would be to have like a 20 average, which you know, I know people have hit within 6 months or a year or 2 years, you know,
right.
But why would the question I think you've got to ask yourself, if you're in that position where you're tracking that solely, is why? Because the quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality,
right? But
it also becomes one of those things where you're tracking something again that you can't control, but there's elements to it. So I think that it's healthy to have a goal like that's kind of like as and when, if that happens, that's a cool goal that I've hit. But having that would be like kind of again, like a passive goal, right? And I think that the goals that you should be, I don't think they should be called goals. I think they should be more kind of I don't know, how do I put it? You should have, your goals should be based on things that you can actually action to get you to that point.
The smart goals mentality.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I always hated smart goals, like at school or work. But it is one of those things where you can, okay, so I'm going to do this one thing every week or every month on stream. I'm going to do a new type of show. I'll do gaming content, and then once a month I will do a karaoke stream. Right. Or I'll do I'll play an instrument. Or I'll do an art stream.
Taking on this project that we're doing right now.
Yeah, maybe people be interested in that, or maybe I'll make something. Right. I'll import a skill. I'll do a cooking stream, and it's like, well, I could go through so many categories on Twitch, and I will see, and I'm going to say this, primarily males. Yeah. But guys, this is their stream, and I've raided into the mistakenly a couple of times.
Okay.
Hey, what's going on? And that's it. That's the content. And more often than not, I've seen those people. That's not you, comic. I've seen more often than not. Those people being the ones that kick off. Right. I have a couple of female streamer friends who have like been successful, and they make quality content, and they have those kinds of people coming in saying, well, obviously it's just because X, Y, and Z, because they're female and pretty, and completely devaluing every other fact of it. And I think it's the fact of like those kinds of people, not male in particular, but like those types of people who will look at that and be like, that's the numbers, that's the reason, aren't particularly looking at their faults. Yeah. I could sit back and be like, okay, well, I'm not at a 20 average. Why not? And try and go, okay, well, you know what do I enjoy doing? What do I think would be fun to do? And how can I build to get there eventually? Or I could go, I want a 20 average and I'm not going to change this. You know what I mean? I'll just play the waiting game. And I still think there's value in like, yeah, I still think there's value. Look, I think everyone has their reason for being on here. If it's monetary, fine, all the best to you. If it's, I want to be here for community, there's a lot of that. If it's, I enjoy games and I'm blasted at the end of my workday and all I want to do is sit down and play video games and I like streaming, I just want to show it to people. That's valid as well, but then if you make stuff that you want to kind of have a creative outlet in, which is and a community, which those two things are the things that I like doing, then you can push your content out more. And growth, I don't think most people would do this if they didn't want to grow somewhat, whether that's community, that's numbers, monetarily, whatever. I think a lot of people lie on the latter fact because it's it's a thing that's kind of like taboo to talk about. But there is a benefit in kind to that, but you're not, I think as long as you're not pushing that agenda, then it's fine. I think otherwise,
there's a healthy way to look at your numbers and like your goals. Like you can't walk up and say like, I want to be 50 tomorrow, right? Like it is what it is to some degree. Paying attention to the numbers can help you with a lot of things, like what time works for the audience that I've gained so far. Like where are my highest numbers based on my audience that I found so far? Where do I perform the best in certain categories? Like people want to see me doing this style of content, but you have to be very realistic about sometimes growth is slow and sometimes it's not all in your control, but you can look at different aspects while attaching it. And like you said, you've gone to people with big numbers and like you don't see the content there, and that's a super dangerous thing too, because you can't compare yourself to other communities. You don't know how that community got built, because I've seen it several times. I'll look around and I'm like, this content is very comparable to mine, but they are sitting at 50 average. And it's like, well, why am I not that guy? Because I didn't have the same opportunities. I didn't hit the same categories. I don't hit the exact same topic points. So like, maybe they just have that one topic that resonates with their community and not mine. And it's a hard game to be very healthy and realistic about your goals around numbers and the mentality that drives it.
Well, yeah, Comic has said here, there's nothing wrong with watching your numbers. If you let the numbers control your attitude towards streaming, then you need to not pay so much attention. If you can use the numbers to make changes, that's the best way to handle it, which is, I think, the way I've spoken to Comic specifically about this before, I was very numbers focused at the beginning and I learned from it because it's not healthy. But right. I don't think there's anything wrong with being aware of it. Having goals that are based on numbers, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that there is, like my job right now is based on analytics. I look at numbers and I'll go, okay, how do we grow this? How do we get more numbers? How do we get more players? How do we put this out to more people?
Analytics.
Because I spend like God knows how many hours a month in front of this camera talking to could be no one, Right. I mean, there are people out there, I've got a lovely community, but you know what I mean? Like I have a bit of glass and electronics just staring back at me. I don't have a real person. Right. I spend a lot of time doing this, but I also spend a lot of time like trying to create new things. I could spend more time. That's the other thing about it. I could break my back trying loads of different things. I think the real thing is, are you enjoying what you're doing? Yes or no? And I think I've mentioned this Comic. Like the metric that I go by now, and I think I said this earlier, is am I enjoying it? Yes or no? Is it giving me, some more exposure and new people in the community? Yes or no? That kind of, I think we spoke about the WD-40 duct tape flowchart. It's the same thing.
Classic.
Am I enjoying it? No. Is it giving me good numbers? Yes. Is it conducive to, does it represent me, and is it conducive to like
what you want to build?
What I want to build and my mental health, or
right?
No, then stop doing it. Do I dislike it? No. Do I like it? No. Is it good numbers? No. Well, let's change it up. And why?
Yeah.
I always like the question why, because why will always lead you to an answer. It should lead you to an answer of, well, what can I do different? If you are that focused on the numbers, it's that thing of like, what can I change to do it? But I don't think that there's there's genuinely no clear and fast way. Also, I think it's healthy and to remind yourself as a streamer of your own viewing habits.
Yeah.
As a consumer, like how many times I don't think channel hopping is so much a thing now because of on demand, but like even channel hopping on Twitch is a real thing. You want to support all of your friends. You might have multiple
tabs and
you can only really truly be engaged in one. And you may hang out with me for an hour and then go, actually, I'm going to go hang out with Soulstrike. I'm not going to be mad at you for that.
Right.
That is, I know I have that kind of thing, We're like, well, I'll watch somebody for a couple of hours or be active.
Yeah.
And then, I'll go off and do something else. Or I might be gaming while I'm watching somebody. Or like today I had Shane, some kind of monster on in the background. And I was doing some game deving on my game that I'm making. Just toying around with the one I showed you.
A lot of times I'll like go through when I'm watching my VODs and I'll have someone up. And like my attention's obviously divided, but like I'm there and I engage occasionally. But there's people out there on the platform that I don't want to say get upset, but they don't like the fact that like people miss out or they're not as active as they should be, and like getting mad at lurkers. And it's like, these people take the time out of your day, and like you should be thankful, even if you're sitting at 3 viewers or like Comic said 50 viewers or 5 viewers. Show that those 5 people a good time. Like, they're there to hang out. They're taking their time. They're taking their effort and their attention and giving it to you. And how anyone cannot be thankful of that process, even if they're just lurking.
How often, like, how often do you have like 20 people in a room listening to you at any given time? Like, I'm somebody who's very self-deprecating, but also I have very low self-esteem about myself. And I think most of my community will know that. Like, I grew up like being bullied. And even though I think a lot more of myself now,
and bring you back up, but you just don't listen. And yeah,
it's a very inherent internal thing. And I'm an outwardly confident person, but he's barking. But it's that thing of like, you will always kind of have that. If you're that kind of person like me, you might have that internal monologue. Why? But one thing that I took from acting, I remember I was doing this show, and third show, which is always the shit show. It's always the one where like everyone's done the first couple of, and like, you might have had like a really good reception on the first night, maybe the second night. And then you get to that third show and everyone's tired, especially because we were doing a tour, and you might not be in the right venue. You might not have a huge audience that night. It may be a matinee, so you have all the oldies in who are like a lot more passive. But I remember one of my castmates, she's like, look, she said, one of my old like tutors at drama school said, you never know who's in the audience. It could be somebody's first show and you're setting the precedent in the bar for how they enjoy like theatre, because we're doing a stage show at the time. It could be, somebody who can't wait to see the show. It could be somebody who's had a really good day. It could be the last time somebody ever sees a show, So you think about the bar that you're setting and go forward with that mentality. It's the same. It's very reminiscent of what comics said, which is, like, it doesn't matter if you've got one of 5. Those are one of 5 people who've chosen to come and hang out with you, and I'll always be thankful of that.
And like, you'll only get a sliver of time for that first impression, and if you're down on yourself, you're ignoring everything, you're just like blanked out, or even worse, if you are berating someone in chat, they're not gonna stick around, and you've ruined that experience for that viewer. And you ruined your chance. You've stunted your chance at growth. And like, it goes to being like your authentic self too, when you're talking about, experimenting with certain things and the whole why behind it, right? Like, yeah, I could force myself to be the hype man. That's just always at a 10. I could probably only do it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'd have to stream way less, because I'm not that guy by any means. But like, that is going to wear on you over time, and you're going to stop being that guy because it's not authentic to you. So like, you need to look at your content, community building from that lens too. Like, I've always said, you want to be you, but you dialed up a couple notches, because you need to be authentic for longevity, but you do have to convey more emotion. You have to be more animated, just a little bit extra, to let people know that you're engaged and they're getting the full experience of you. So I've seen people that after a couple of shows, all of a sudden they're not the person I followed, or like, everyone can have an off day, but it starts becoming obvious that like they're more this person than what I thought they were. And that's important when you sit down and try to define the community you want to build in this game. For me, I mean, the stereotype is, hey man, I'm just trying to build a community that's super chill and has great vibes. That's everyone on Twitch. What's next?
Yeah.
Like, and I know a lot of streamers that may not have defined their community yet, or they're still working on it. But at the end of the day, I guess, like, for me, my process was like, who am I authentically and what am I trying to replicate that I've enjoyed in my past. For me, it's the old EOD shop talk, which is just, we talk about the most random things, anything, everything under the sun, and how do I structure that in the way I want to deliver content and build a community around that idea. And the thought process for me is I am trying to build a community that's like an old timers bar where everyone kind of knows each other. Everyone's there to like just relax and get away for a little bit. And whatever topic comes up, you just want to get into it and have a good time discussing it. It doesn't matter what it is. The jack of all trades from all walks of life, kind of just safe, familiar, local bar or pub for you English types, because apparently I have a lot of them. And that is what I've defined my communities based off of me. So then I start looking at content as to how do I like reinforce that idea. I started doing just chattings where I pick a topic that's kind of loosely related to a lot of the topics I want to get into as we move forward in this diffuser thing or diffused podcast. I pick a topic. I spend 15 to 30 minutes on that topic, and it's a new topic. It's fresh. It's something that's related to the general idea of electronics, entertainment, streaming, Twitch, YouTube platforms, and stuff like that. And then I start this. I reach out to you. It felt right. It has a good idea. We have these conversations on the stream in general when we're playing video games. Now we're just getting into the details and making it more structured and like moving that forward. And that's kind of how people need to look at, I guess, building their community and defining what type of content they want to deliver. I don't know if you've gone through that process or you have anything that like you've gone through in your head that's kind of the same way as that.
No, I don't think it's defined. I think that's a really nice way to think about it. Like for me, I think fostering a community in terms of, you know, not even fostering,
being the ringleader.
I guess. I think most people who will stick around will have the same outlook as you, will have the same vibes as you, you know,
Right.
will have the same general values as you. And if you don't kind of live up to that, they won't stick around unless they're trolls,
Right.
which I have had experiences of. You know, for me, I feel like it's more like a hangout, you know, like even though I'm the one playing the games, you know, the way I see it's a bit like an interactive late night talk show where like we'll do the features, but everyone has a say in it, you know?
Yeah.
Because there is that barrier. But when it comes to the community, we're very supportive of each other. You know, kind of look out for each other, and there's so many beautiful people within the community who come in and out. But that's the way I always saw it, because like it is just me here, you know, regardless of whether it was 2 people in a night or whether it's 50.
Right.
You know, I'm still kind of like holding the fort, and if I get tired, you can see it. I feel like that. I feel like I'm quite transparent in that way. But
Little bit.
the key element is, I think, is knowing the value and putting the correct version of yourself out. Like I am quite fickle with the way I am sometimes, and I don't think a lot of myself. But one thing that Soulstrike said when he met me to begin with, he was like, "You're exactly like you are on stream." I still think I'm more dialed up on stream, but I think I've chilled out a lot more than when I first started. I think when I first started, I definitely put out a version of myself that I thought people wanted to see, and then as time's gone on, you just can't continue that over a long period of time, because you naturally, I mean, there are people who do it, but I don't know, they've got more energy than I have.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't think it's easy to be consistent.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm a little more dialed up when I'm, you know, live because I am a very like stoic and reserved person in real life, but like that is not something that like conveys what you're thinking or going through. And there are the streamers out there, and a lot of most of them struggle the entire time they decide to Twitch because they don't talk unless someone's talking to them. By the time someone talks to you, it's probably too late to make that impression. And like, you have to force yourself to talk. And for me, I don't talk all day. Like I can sit in a room by myself and not say anything for an entire day and not care.
I mean, I do that for work anyway, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
you can't do that when you're live. And that's where I've always got that, like I dial it up a couple of notches, and like learning to talk to yourself constantly is, I think, one of the bigger skills that everyone kind of needs if they want to build a stream going forward. And the easiest way to do it is the reactive conversation where you're reacting to the screen. And then from there you build into the whole projecting your inner thoughts. So like initially like, oh, look at that enemy attacked me. Look, this happened to me. Oh, look, I fell off a cliff. That's hilarious. And then you move into the whole like, okay, my game plan for going into this next area of the game is, and you lay out a game plan and like your story. This is exactly how it's going to go in my mind. And it's never going to go that way, which leads to more content, which is I've failed so miserably, or it worked out, but I don't know how because that's not what I was thinking. And then like the final stage of like that is like planning, not scripting, but planning content and conversations. Like I said, I have my planned subject for like just chatting, but just having a list of things that, hey, if I come to a dead spot, I don't need to talk about my game plan. Nothing's happening in the game because I'm moving from point A to point B. I can talk about my favorite hobby, motorcycles, or I'm going to bring up a story that happened off screen. So I have like a small list either in my head or in front of you of what I can do to talk and fill the void. And that's a process that I think, especially if somehow you go viral and skip like being a small streamer, like where we're at now, you don't develop that skill. And that skill is huge if you want to be here.
I think so. I think, you know, like, I think it follows somewhat of a dramatic arc. You know, you have, you know, you have your kind of not layout, but your premise, your conflict, and then your resolution, and that can happen multiple times in a stream. You know, generally I'll have like a couple of topics. I used to write it down, but I generally keep it in my head now. If I really want to talk about it, I'll write it down. Of what I want to talk about like, you know, within my just chatting segment. And then I'll have kind of topics that like I'll keep in the back in case I get that lull. And, you know, my advice to any new streamer would be, if you have nothing else to talk about what you had for dinner or talk about the game. Like food is such a equalizer that you could say, hey, what's your favorite sandwich filling? And people react.
Believe it or not, most people alive on the planet today eat.
I don't believe it. That sounds like an absolute filthy lie.
Statistics.
A statistic? Oh, suddenly he's a statistician now.
100% of people who refuse to eat over long periods of time die.
I mean, I think there is a lot in the fact of like, there is a lot of commonality, you know, with your life. I look at content creators who I wouldn't necessarily watch or choose to like subscribe to or watch, who are just so good at making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though it might be cheesy or hokey or kitschy, I think there's a lot in learning people like that who are able to, like, I'm somebody who doesn't really care to celebrate birthdays or
me either.
Little things, you know.
Right.
We don't really celebrate Valentine's Day here. You know, there's a lot of those kind of hallmark holidays we don't celebrate, but even so, I don't get excited about the little things as much as I wish I could.
Right.
And I think I don't know, that probably says more about me than anything else, but I do look at people who do celebrate that, and I'm like, how do they get to that point that those little slices of life have that enjoyment?
Yeah.
You know? And so I think it's the same thing when it comes to, I'm learning it slowly, kind of being more in the moment, getting more excited about the little things. Recognize that, because those are commonalities and relatable points, you know?
Yeah.
And think about, you know, you may have had a weird interaction on the street. That's a story that you can tell in the lull, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's 100%. And that's, I mean, you kind of mentioned it too, like, if nothing else, talk about the game. Like, that's that whole arc I was talking about. Like, that is the easiest place to start because it's right in front of you. You're thinking about it. That's what your focus is on until you start learning to engage with chat and start learning to do these other things. So, like, but like you said, everyone eats. It's super relatable. Like, there's probably more relatable things in everyone's life than I think they tend to realize. So, like, you think about something that's super mundane or boring in your life, someone else out here in this Twitch universe has that too, and that could be something that starts the spark that builds communities, right?
I've had so many people like come into my community and say, hey, or come into my stream and be like, hey, I want to stream. Like, and I've egged them on to do it. Not been like, you need to stream. But in fact, there was somebody that we used to both play with in Red Dead. And she was such a character in it. I had a great RP with her. And she was like, oh, you know, it looks like fun. But I don't know. I don't really have the confidence to do it. I'm like, are you kidding me? You could do it.
Kill it.
Eventually, like literally, I think maybe a week or two later, they did. I'm like, thanks for giving me the confidence. And it was just words of encouragement.
Right.
In a game. Or, you know, like when they popped into chat after the RP, you know, after they'd finished the game, you know, during my stream. And that was enough to give somebody, you don't know how you're going to affect people negatively or positively.
Right.
So the only way that you can, the way that I see it, the way that I move forward is not have false positivity, but create a space that is going to be supportive to those,
right,
you know, who, you know, again, I like to champion people as much as possible. I don't care for the fake positive, you know, the Apple Store mentality of positivity, or like, you know, when you see a physical trainer and they're like, you know, today's a great day, and you're like, you're in insufferable debt, you know.
It's miserable.
Yeah, but they put a happy face on anyway. I think it's just that thing of being relatability and authenticity are two words that get thrown around content creation, streaming, whatever, all the time. You know, why is so and so popular? Oh, well, they're relatable and authentic. How do you get to what's his name? Lewis Capaldi. Relatable and authentic. Why?
Yeah.
He's a Scottish singer.
Okay.
You know, why can you pinpoint? Well, he's funny. Well, aren't comedians funny? Are they? Well, no, but it's that thing of like,
no, but yeah,
it's like Jack Black is weirdly authentic,
yeah,
and relatable, but he's a fucking superstar. It's not something that you can just say that you are and then you are it.
Yeah, you have to be relatable and authentically. But
it takes time. It takes time.
And like you say, you encourage them, and I tend to as well. If I hear anyone in like my community say, I was thinking about doing it, and my thing's always the same. For me, I always tell them like, well, give it a try, because at the end of the day, you're not going to know if you like it as a hobby or moving forward until you try it. Like there's no way to prepare for it besides doing it. Like you can't prepare to be distracted by a video game while reading chat until you're playing a video game and reading chat. You can't prepare for long stints of talking and trying to come up with things to say until you're doing it. Like, you have to do it to see if you even like it. And if anyone's on the fence, I always encourage it, because they may be great at it, and it may be the best thing that they've ever done, and they really get into it and they love it, or they hate it, and you can walk away with an experience. Because the worst case scenario in trying to be a streamer is you walk away with an experience, right?
I think that stands for most thing in life, you know.
Well, yeah.
Like, I've always been somebody who, like, my grandpa used to always say, don't regret the things you have done, regret the things you haven't. And I'm like, well, there's some limitations, but like, I've done a lot in my life. Like, I remember Lama used to work for an energy company during lockdown. She changed jobs, and then she used to tell her like colleagues about me. She came home one day. She's like, I think they think I'm a liar, like a compulsive liar, because I've had such like a peppered history of doing so much stuff. Because they would bring something up and she'd be like, oh, my boyfriend does that. And you know, he used to guard the Queen for a living. Oh yeah, he's an actor. You know, like, oh yeah, he was a builder. You know, it's weird things like that.
Everyone at work just thinking like, she's making someone up. There's no way. No one does all of this.
I bet her boyfriend lives in Canada, you know?
Yeah. They're like, I have a girlfriend. They live in Australia. They're amazing.
Again, it's because I'm fickle. I've tried a lot of things. Like, a lot of the jobs I've been in for like, you know, a couple of years, a couple of years. Like, yeah, you know, hobbying wise, I've tried a lot of stuff, seeing what fits. This is probably, other than acting, this is probably one of the longer endeavors that I've had. Yeah. And I enjoy it, you know.
That's good. We want to keep you around a little bit longer.
Well, I hope so. Well, if you've got some, you know, news that I don't have, then please let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things. I think when anyone says to me, hey, I'm thinking about streaming, what should I get? What should I do? I never tell them like, oh, get this mic or get that monitor or get a stream deck. I will always go for the cheapest option or like the most effective option for their budget.
Bang for buck.
See where they're at. And, you know, you can make the most out of actually very little. Right. You can make something look good quite easily nowadays. Things are so accessible. I've got a guy that lives in my building who's who makes like kind of like rap music, and we literally had a conversation when I got back from the gym. Like, he smokes on the outside of like by the front doors, which is on the main street. So I come and always have a chat with him. You know, I've just started to learn to drum, and so we got into a conversation about music, and we were talking about how accessible it is nowadays. You know, right? And I think it's just that it's so accessible, and there's so much that can make you can create with nowadays with general stuff that's quite common at the disposal now. That I'm not devaluing or eliminating certain people's struggles or you know, what they have or what might not have, but in a general aspect, if you're thinking about streaming, the easiest thing that you can do is just go live, camera or not. And I think the biggest element of that is, okay, Monty, I'll let you out. The biggest element of that is just to, again, like you see how you feel talking on a camera or on a live stream. Right. You know, see how comfortable you are. See if you enjoy playing games live, or if it's too stressful. If that's the case, you know, that you don't like being on camera, do it without a camera. Do it with an avatar. I mean, I
think there's options out there. The VTubers are doing well, and like, you don't need a camera. Everyone, like, obviously it helps. It gives you more connectivity to your audience, but I think Chilidawgs, Barbaric, neither of them have cameras. They do fine. VTubers, there are tons of VTubers that are huge out there. Like, you have options if you can't really afford a camera and a mic and a whole setup. Like, you don't need a camera. All you need is mic and clean output, right?
That's the thing. Like, so I don't like to use my headset because I don't want to hear people. You know, I like how my voice sounds through this. I've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy doing research, and also, like saving up for this mic. But I know what I like and what I want to put out, and what's within my means to do so. But that's not to say that you can't make that mic sound better. And I think it's that thing of like, what you have is exactly what you need. And, I wouldn't have a lot of this if it wasn't for a community or people who want to support whatever this endeavor is,
Right. And like, as you build over time, like if you enjoy it, you can start, once you affiliate, you get some money. You can set that money aside and use it specifically for stream gear if you want to upgrade. But like the barrier to entry is really low in the streaming industry. And like, you should never feel pressured to have to match your favorite creator. Like, BBJS, don't really watch BBJS, but like the production quality is insane on that stream, and there are like 20 cameras involved and like so much. But like, if that's your goal, that's your goal, but you don't have to be there tomorrow. You can start out with no camera and build over time if you like it and you want to go there.
You ever seen BBJS's like first streams?
It was a lot more basic. Yeah, I mean, it took them time to get there.
Camera,
yeah,
and she posted about it the other day, and I was like, holy shit, that's so different. And she blew up in a year.
Yeah.
But again, like some people say, oh well, she's an attractive girl. And
no, if you look at the production quality, like
the production quality is insane, and that energy is unmatched.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I wish I had half of that energy.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I believe that is probably close to her authentic self. If it's not, I'd love to see how it holds up after 2-3 years, right? But like, it comes off very naturally, so it feels like that is the streamer you're getting. And like, I could do that for an hour or two a day, but I couldn't do it over months or a year, because that is not me. And that's that other side of it, right? Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and people like that can blow up very fast, but normal people who are just good at telling stories and connecting can go very fast as well. Like, I think Ludwig, I haven't seen a lot of his content, or Harris Heller. They're not high energy streamers per se. They are really good storytelling streamers. They connect very easily. So like, there is no cookie cutter, this is how you get to the top. Everyone has to find their own journey.
I have had somebody ask me that though. They're like, how do I become successful on Twitch? I'm like, well, if I knew that, I would also be successful on Twitch.
Why would you come into these small streamer, like, you can see my numbers, right?
Small town bar talking your big city talk.
Like, look, by no means, and like, about where we're at, like, we're doing really good comparatively. Like, you and I, even Chili and Barbaric, like, when you look at the percentage of streamers and the metrics, data, all that, we're doing very well.
I couldn't complain.
But no, why would you? Like, I love the journey, but like, we're not the ones that you ask, how do you blow up and get big? It's like, I don't know. I'm not there yet, but I'm still doing very well on my journey. I'm building it the way I know how, and I'm learning as I go, just like everyone else. But
like, eventually, like, even like my stream will change up again. Like, I'm getting, I'm hopefully selling something so I can get an electric drum kit, and I'm learning that. And I'd like to eventually have, a stream where I do a music stream once in every,
right.
If I feel confident enough doing it, if it feels unnatural to me, or I feel like, again, right. I like doing, I still need to produce another one of the Creator Royales, because that was so fun.
Right.
And that'll become an ongoing series. But I think it's that thing of, when we talk about authenticity, it's not so much about being like just a relatable human, but it's just you make the things that you want to make, and if people fuck with it, they will come back. Right. Like I had a raid the other day when I was playing Deep Rock Galactic, and it was right at the start of the stream, and the people who came in were real lovely, and you know, they were like, "Oh, I really like the vibes here. I'm down for it."
Good retention.
I'll follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that thing
because
of like
it matched. You know, the raid matched you and your style.
Just changing up real quick though, what is your opinion? Because like I see this quite a bit, and it's kind of a twofold thing, and it's the element, the thing of like when people are on the kind of unasked for stream advice that you see on social media. But also alongside that, for example, like lurkers, right? I love my lurkers. They're the backbone of Twitch because, like,
I stream in the middle of the day for my country, like for America, which is like the larger segment of the population. Like, I expect lurkers. I am honored that someone would put me on as their background noise to get through the monotony of working through the day.
When people put me on their TV, like their main TV, I feel like a fucking superstar. I'm like, somebody's put me on their TV. You know what I mean?
I am the focal point of this house right now.
I am above the mantle right now. I am the centerpiece, the mantelpiece.
Yes.
No. There was a lot of things where, you know, there's a lot of stream politics which I tend to stay out of. In the way of, like, I saw this thing the other week, which was, you know, a conversation around lurkers. Certain streamers are banning their lurkers, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. Cutting off your nose to spite your face. There's no benefit in the slightest, because the majority of your you're not going to get them. Here's the thing: you're not going to get a more active viewer base by
banning the inactive
lurkers. It's that doesn't make any sense. But also, there's a lot of rules that people put on. When I first started streaming, and they're still, I think they may be still up on my channel, my YouTube. I did that thing of like, the rules of streaming. Here's what you got to do for growth, that kind of thing, you know? Yeah. I see a lot of it, or, you know, even if it's,
I mean, I consumed a lot of it when I was starting out. But like,
I feel like it's the same people that you would go to that everyone else goes to.
Yeah.
And that's Harris Heller, Stream Scheme,
those are
to do with glasses.
Two big ones.
Nutty and
the Irish guy. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to Google it. But
there's like 5 people that are generally the go-to when it comes to streaming.
Yeah.
Oh, and Gaia level as well. But he's a little bit more technical.
Here it is. X2 shoes.
I've never heard of X2 shoes.
Oh, nope. You got a new one. But at the same time, a lot of them very much the same advice, and all of these people give the same advice because the same advice. I mean, it's the basics, it's the building blocks, but at the end of the day, it's this mentality and understanding that, like, I can give you all of the advice and all the tools under the sun, but you have to implement them. I'm not worried about you stealing my audience because I put in the effort. I built the blocks. I'm giving you the tools. Will you do the same?
Right. And each audience is different. Like, I don't get mad about hot tub streamers because, let's be honest, the people who are watching that aren't going to come and watch.
They're never going to come over to my channel.
A mustached white man with a receding hairline.
I've talked about it several times. You know, there's no thirst on this planet that will bring someone to SkaggBragi.
But equally, you know, like, I think that there's a lot of stream politics where if you're new to it, it can seem really overwhelming because you'll see people saying, well, you know, like, I think we should ban lurkers from stream. And then you'll see the opposite. Or then you'll see somebody put up a tweet saying, you know, it's toxic to do this, or, you know, there's unspoken rules, and then there's rules that are the very small parts of, or very, you know, small pockets of streamers may preclude to their channels.
Right.
The easiest way to go about this whole thing is again just to go live, and is just to do it and experience it, and then and because you never know,
do
you
it
hear
your way,
and yeah. Like as much as we can talk about our experiences, there really is no hard and fast rule. But what I hope that people will get from like this, for example, is they will kind of like understand that this is our experience. This is what you could expect, but your journey could be vastly different. But this is a commonality of
right,
or you know,
there's things that you will always relate to with other small streamers or people that do it, that like link us all together, but everyone's journey and steps to finding your niche or success are gonna vary wildly.
Honestly, the journey is not linear. It is the Alps out there. Yeah. You know, I know people who've gone and climbed to a good average, who've been somewhat successful, because it really when we say successful, it really depends on what your definition of success is. My definition for the majority of people when we say success is you're talking about a large community or audience number, viewer number, a consistent kind of averages. That's when I think most people talk about streaming or successful streamers. That's what they're referencing. So again, your metric on what success is individual, but that's when we reference successful streamers, that's what we're really referencing. But I know people who've found success and then maybe change their content style, or maybe it's just shot down and then
like come back
there's
up
a stasis and then it's gone back up. Yeah, you look at Ninja, for example. He's a prime example of that. Yeah. Somebody who, again, mono game streamer, found the biggest success and really hasn't
huge.
And because it was game centric, and because the candle burnt bright and fast,
right?
And if you look at it now in comparison, he's struggling to maintain that audience. Whereas you look at somebody like PewDiePie, who's changed his content style so much. Now he's doing essentially dad living content in Japan. He started out screaming at video games. And, if you look at his career and his time streaming and content creating, it's so varied.
Right.
Then you look at people who...
You can evolve. Maybe. It's just a matter of like how you evolve and present that to your audience.
Yeah.
And you should evolve, honestly, because you're not going to be the same person 3 years from now as you are today. So
a lot has changed in the past 2 years.
Yeah. And last 2 years were rough.
yeah. But even so, even on the platform, I'm talking world here, but I'm also talking about the platform. The platform has changed so much over the past couple of years that there's you can't, consistency is key individually, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to remain the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
As long as you are consistent with things like scheduling. Even if I usually say this, have yourself a schedule. It doesn't even have to be the same day.
No.
If you're new to it, just let people know ahead of time when you're going live. I mean, I'm going, on Monday, Wednesday. Right. Oh.
Absolutely. I mean, I know a guy. He works the fire station, the Daily Dad, and they have a rotating schedule, kind of like my girlfriend. So he'll work 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off. So you can't have a consistent schedule. He goes live on days that he's not at the fire station. So this week he'll be Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and next week he'll be Wednesday, Thursday. But it's a schedule that people kind of understand or they get used to, and it works for him, but it's at the same time and people are aware of that. So your schedule doesn't have to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week.
No,
it has to be something you can maintain and is consistent so that people that look for content at this time can kind of get that time.
Consistency, I also mean, consistency of who you are, consistency of the content you make, whether that's a game or just the way that you interact with these games, consistency of interaction, consistency of atmosphere. There's consistent doesn't necessarily have to be a scheduled thing,
Right. Several ways to be consistent.
Yeah, and I think when we say consistent, it is generally just timing, or like, I'm going to be streaming on these days. But there's just so much, like we're talking about BBGS. There's consistency there. There's a consistency of who they are. There's consistency of content, whether that's
what
like
they can expect,
who changes up all the time. Yeah, and it's about just managing those expectations. I mean, we've spoken for like nearly 3 hours about this, and it always comes back to the same thing. It always comes back to, well, if you're going to try it, just try it. But I think it's that thing of like, it's always nice to hear from other people, even, that have experience of just getting into it,
right.
That it's not all like, rose beds and gold, but also that if you, I guess I call myself like a pessimistic optimist. Like, if you don't expect much, the more you get is going to be a bonus, right?
Yeah.
So like,
I've always joked like I'm like the opposite of the Air Force. I like to aim low and don't set myself up for disappointment. That kind of mentality where like, be realistic and be achievable in your goals, and like when you get like more than that, it's all gravy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've had some amazing days, and like I went live one Monday, and I was so low, not low in terms of being sad. I was low energy. It'd been just coming off the weekend, and it'd been a long day, and I went live, and I was playing some chill ass games, and it became one of the most. I had ridiculous raids. We had like a hype train, like
right.
There was we played some fun games in the end. We had like for example, when the other week, I wasn't feeling too hot, and we played Human
Fall Flat, yeah.
And, like, even the days where sometimes I don't feel like streaming, I don't necessarily force myself to stream, but I know that if I was not myself, I would probably wallow in my own self-pity.
Right.
Like, there's days that you definitely need to take for yourself. But I know that, like,
sometimes it's like a pickup. It's like a boost. It's a like nice habit, and it's a hobby. It should be a hobby. You should have fun doing it. So, like, yeah, no, completely agree.
But then we come back to the element of the community, where like I said to you, hey, I'm not feeling too hot, I don't know what to do, and you're like, I really appreciate it, as you know, but like, you're like, all right, then what do you want to play? Let's play this. And
right, because we did have a plan that day, but it changed, and I'm completely fine with it. But
that was honestly so much fun. I had a blast at the end of it. We had llama in. We had, we had it was a really fun day, and that came at that kind of thing. Had I not had that, I would have probably just been like sat on the sofa or sat in here with the lights off, kind of just low, So it having something like this isn't just to kind of show off or show yourself off or anything like that. Sometimes it can be more cathartic than that, and it really is. Yeah, And if you have a boost of inspiration, dude, you have a whole platform to do it on.
Yeah, just run with it. Worst case, it doesn't resonate with your audience or it doesn't perform the way you want, and you can go a different direction or try something else. But like, if you have that moment or thing you want to do, like this is a big departure for me. It's a departure for, like, not necessarily you've done conversations before, but like it's something completely new that I wanted to try, and I'm running with it. And like, it could be fun. It could work well, or it could fall flat. But I tried it, and as long as we have fun while we're trying to set it up or take it into the future, that's all that matters. Only time will tell how it performs. And by the way, if you're watching this later on YouTube and it's performing amazing, thank you, you lovely audience. And make sure to hit that like and subscribe for both me and Cortenyde and Barbaric, and all the links in the description below.
And if that does happen, I always knew it was going to be a success because we're hot shit.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
He saw the future. All right.
I mean, look,
I think that, like, I almost did the outro plug. I nailed it perfect. So. It fit in.
I ruined it as normal.
No, I'll cut all this out. Now it's a joke and I have to leave it in. But
yeah.
It's going back and forth. Oh man.
Content.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening and hanging out. It's been a blast. We plan on doing more of these on a variety of different topics, to include the state of video gaming, the state of movies and television, and all sorts of technology and gaming type content. And we hope to see you in the future. But seriously, hit the like and subscribe on all the things in the description below. We'll catch you next time.